Hi, everyone. I think we'll start the webinar. Welcome to our webinar. We at the Construction Industry Federation of Ireland are delighted to be hosting this morning's session. We thank you for registering and would like to welcome everybody. We will get started. We're just waiting for a few more people to join. Today's webinar is entitled Connectivity Solutions for the Construction Sector, from Greenfield Sites to Final Completion and Beyond. And it is co-hosted by CIF members VEI Global and their partner Cradlepoint. We hope you enjoy the next 30 minutes, and please feel free to pop any questions you may have in the chat. Timing permitting, we will try to answer some questions during or at the end of the session. This webinar is recorded, and you will be able to view it on our website over the coming days. So let's get started. Let me hand you over now to your hosts, Bill Kenny from VEI Global and Chris Bignell from Cradlepoint.
Hi, how's everyone? Thank you very much for giving us your time today. I'd like to thank Sarah and the CIF for hosting us today and giving us the opportunity to outline who VEI are and what Cradlepoint can offer to the construction industry. What I'd like to do, Chris, if we move on to the next slide, just who VEI are. We're 14 years in business. We're based in Naas. We employ approximately 30 up to 35, depending on projects and and what is happening at the time. Key sectors, we're in just about every sector that needs connectivity, but construction in the last number of years has changed dramatically, and connectivity within construction is becoming a huge growth point for ourselves. So if we just jump on again, Chris. So what we do in 2010, what we started out doing was we were mostly a voice company. We were putting in telephone systems, working with Siemens. So 80% of what we did in 2010 was voice services and 20% was network services. That has completely flipped on its head now. So it's 80% of what we do now is network services and 20% is voice. A lot of that is down to the way the world has changed and the pandemic and the way people work from different locations. We offer connectivity is what we're experts at. So SD-WAN, LAN, WAN networks, Wi-Fi, GSM boosting, and circuit delivery, including what we're going to talk about today is 4 and 5G with Cradlepoint. We have installation resources. We have engineers that work across the UK and Ireland, but we also do a lot of projects in Europe and the US, mainly for Irish-based companies that have offices there. We offer a full managed service. So from the very start of a project, we can help design, install, budget for projects. We can outsource, you can outsource your IT help desk to us. We have our own help desk here that can assist. We have an integration center that we test and stage products for deployment for clients. We also have expert placement. If you need an expert to roll out a project for you on site or within your company, VEI can assist you with that. Security, I won't get too much into security today, but network is, your data network is extremely important to the way you work now, and it's only as strong as the weakest link. So if you look at the edge of your network, that needs to be as protected as your core at these stages. And the way cyber hacking is happening and things, it is really important that you keep your network up to date and managed properly. We also integrate MS Teams. So we do telephone systems. So if you're using Teams and you want to create it into a proper telephone system, use a software called Luware, and we can help manage and deploy that for you. Just the next slide is just within construction. I've just put a couple of scenarios here where we have helped deploy with clients. So at present, for greenfield sites, we have a main contractor where we are building comms cabinets for them, which will include Cradlepoint. We'd use Aruba access points if required, Aruba switch, and Aruba GSM boosting. Stellar Doradus GSM boosting. So in greenfield sites where there is no services, we can actually help get a site up and running, but it will work. That will all be managed and will work within the parameters of the security of your head office. Moving back to the head office, we can also install Aruba switches and access points. Cradlepoint can act as a primary or a secondary source for your internet access. Within the cloud, we offer the full managed service, as I said. So our help desk, our engineers can manage and deploy your network for you and maintain it. Data centers, we can install Aruba switches within the data center if you want to move everything up into the cloud and manage it from there. Branch networks, similar to the site offices, we can link everything back through your managed network. And remote workers, the most important part of your network is where you're getting the information is the edge. So remote workers working on the edge, it is really important that all the security is held there. So I'm going to just pass over to Chris, and I'd like to thank him for his time today, who's going to run through 4 and 5G, Cradlepoint, and what it can offer to construction.
Thanks, Bill. So I wanted to start with the reason why secure, reliable, and high-performing site connectivity is paramount to construction. And the reason it is paramount is that all of a construction site's processes and procedures are now digitalized. They're often built around comprehensive enterprise resourcing solutions that covers everything from customer relationship management to contract management to materials being shipped to site to site security, etc. But without that reliable connectivity, all of these systems are affected when we have interruption to service for whatever reason. If we just take the way that we collaborate as employees or with our customers, these are largely dependent on unified comms platforms such as Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts. So really the end-to-end construction process for all projects is now reliant on the internet services to a site. I wanted to move on to some of the challenges that we face with traditional site connectivity. Construction projects are often associated with the reutilization of brownfield sites or new greenfield sites, and getting internet services to these locations where the infrastructure in the ground is old or new infrastructure needs to be put in can take a considerable amount of time. You know, we often or typically see lead times of 60 to 90 days, which all add or need to be planned in order for that connectivity to get to a site, so that site can take advantages of those digital processes that we touched on the previous slide. I recently spoke to a CIO of a large construction organization, and he was saying that a construction project's budget can be 15% of that budget can be lost through delays in site connectivity or disrupted site connectivity. So significant costs can be associated with poor fixed connectivity. And one of the challenges we have with fixed connectivity is it's by its nature, it's rigid. So site managers managing the construction site have to work around that connection. It can't be easily moved. You know, if it's a construction project that has multiple phases, that presents challenges in its own right. It's not flexible. it's also prone to accidents. You know, lorries catching overhead cables, JCBs digging through ducts. These can all add delays to that and disruption to that connectivity that we need to support those digital processes. So why cellular connectivity? Why is cellular connectivity different? And how does it offer an alternative to fixed connectivity? So the first thing with cellular connectivity, providing the site has a tower that's covering the location, then all of the public carriers broadcast cellular coverage, and they do it through typically 3 bands, and within those bands there's multiple cells. And often we find that sites are covered by more than one tower. So you then have carrier diversity, but you also have each carrier broadcasting those cells covering that location. So the more cells we have, the more reliable the cellular coverage is. We're also seeing a lot of advancements in the modems that connect to cellular connectivity. And these modems are different to the modems that we typically find in our smartphones. These are modems that maximize the efficiency of the cells that are being broadcasted by the public carriers, and we can leverage things such as carrier aggregation that allows us to aggregate multiple cells together to improve the performance and reduce the latency to our site locations. Also, all of the public carriers have an aggressive 5G rollout. It's becoming more available, and we only need to look forward to 12 to 18 months time, then the vast majority of areas will have some form of 5G coverage. Our devices are all 5G and 4G compatible, so all backward compatible. So you can invest in a 5G router now. You'll get increased performance from 4G just because of the quality of the modem I alluded to earlier. But then once 5G becomes available to your location, you can immediately take advantage of that.
Yeah, there's no upgrade charge, or there is no software required, Chris, for that. It automatically just converts over to 5G. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, one of the real benefits to cellular connectivity is it's not fixed, it's not rigid. It moves with the projects. And can seamlessly be relocated as if the construction site has multiple phases, so we can just move with the phases as the construction progresses. Or if the construction site is finished, it can simply be picked up and moved to the next project. So you really are maximizing your investment that you've made in cellular technology due to its flexibility and portability.
Yeah, and we assist Cradlepoint on these because every site is completely different. So you may require external antennas on some sites to pick up a better signal and feed it back down into the site. So VEI would be experts on actually helping you locate the antennas and the modems in the best areas of the site.
Thanks, Bill. So why Cradlepoint? We were formed in 2006. Our products and associated management software have been built from the ground up to manage cellular environments. And that's all about providing comprehensive cellular coverage, cellular intelligence. We monitor the cellular health of the network, and all of this is done to improve the end user experience. So we really can see exactly what's happening within the cellular network to ensure that we're maximizing the available coverage, bandwidth, reliability at any one given location. We were acquired by Ericsson in 2021, Ericsson paid 1.1 billion for Cradlepoint because they wanted to get a foothold in the enterprise market space, and they basically wanted a quality endpoint or cellular endpoint to connect to their 5G services. So there's since the acquisition, we've leveraged a number of synergies between the two organizations, and we also can rely on the great pedigree of Ericsson and their experience and history within Ireland. So why does Cradlepoint really add value to construction? And it's really in two ways. We have products that effectively are an adapter. A layer 2 adapter is probably a more technical term. So it's an Ethernet to cellular converter. And the beauty of that is that can be just connected into any legacy infrastructure. So if a construction organization has made an investment in an SD-WAN platform or a firewall platform, then they don't need to lose any of that investment. They can just simply connect one of our adapters to it. Because it has an Ethernet interface, then you've got 100 meters to play with to site that adapter in a location where it's going to get the most optimal cellular coverage. In addition to the layer 2 devices, we are a full enterprise grade SD-WAN platform in our own right with next generation firewall. So we can be the gateway. So it really depends on what the customer has at the site or what they're using. The third thing is having key partnerships with the likes of VEI, who specialize in providing network and communication services to the construction industry. And what they can do is they can take either that layer 2 product or that layer 3 gateway, and they can integrate it into their managed service, their solutions. VEI work with Aruba for the local Wi-Fi requirements. So where it's a large construction site and they need to expand the local coverage, they can integrate Aruba into the managed service. They can use Cradlepoint as the layer 3 gateway, and they can provide that seamless end-to-end service, and they can monitor and manage that for you on your behalf. So that's one of the real benefits of Cradlepoint working with partners such as VEI. We wanted to touch on Starlink because Cradlepoint has a very open stance to complementary services and partners. You know, we welcome vendors who have complementary services to what we do, and Starlink is very much in that category. So what we want or what we acknowledge is not all sites will have cellular coverage. You know, we work a lot in construction, and typically, you know, 1 or 2% of the overall estate, there could be sites where cellular is just not covering or meeting the requirement. So satellite, although has different challenges, is often a good alternative. So the Cradlepoint gateway, you know, has traditional WAN interface, is Ethernet WAN interfaces. So whether the connectivity is traditional fixed or whether it's satellite, we can then provide those connections, and then we have the onboard cellular modem as a tertiary or a method for remote access should either of those primary connections fail.
So it acts as a backup, Chris. Can Starlink act as a backup to the 5G or 4G connection?
Yes, or if the satellite connection is stronger and the cellular connection is poorer, then we could use the satellite for primary connectivity at the location, and then use the cellular for remote hands should there be an issue with that connection.
That's great as well, because if you're moving the device from site to site, you'll have a different probably specification on each site, different connectivity.
Yeah, so it's all about that flexibility and having a device that can cater for those multiple connection types. So I'll move on to user cases now, and where Cellular has traditionally been deployed is as a failover solution. So where we have got fixed connectivity to a site, we can add a cellular adapter or a cellular gateway, and that can be deployed as a primary secondary model. And really is probably where Cradlepoint first started out, and where a lot of customers, whether it be construction, retail, finance, used us as a failover. But because Cellular has improved dramatically over the last 5 years, probably 5 to 10 years, the performance reliability we're seeing from Cellular has moved it from a failover solution to this more active solution. I think it's fair to say that the SD-WAN platforms have also come on and can direct traffic or applications to interfaces. So rather than having a cellular connection just sat there dormant, awaiting awaiting the primary connection to fail, they're getting much more, or they're maximizing their investment in that cellular connection, and they're now using both WAN interfaces both WAN interfaces in an active capacity. And then what we're starting to see is actually the cellular router becoming both the primary and the secondary connection method, whether that be fixed connections, whether that be satellite connections or traditional cellular services. So we're having a lot of customers who are moving completely to cellular because the 5G services are A, reliable, but B, they're outperforming the fixed connections they can get in those locations. So it really depends on where your site is, what the coverage is, and how we can get the most efficiency out of that coverage through the quality of the modem in the device, where we can leverage such things as carrier aggregation, 4x MIMO, and all those features that are designed to improve the performance or the cellular performance.
Yeah, we are finding as well, Chris, with a lot of our clients that when on these greenfield sites, they're not very stable, the connections, usually when they're installed.
Mm-hmm.
So cables get cut or porta cabins get moved and the offices go down. So with the Cradlepoint being able to be versatile and be able to be moved easily, it just means that when the site foreman decides to move the porta cabin, not everything goes down.
Correct. Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, and then the final one, we did touch on this, but it is a common user case. You know, if we do have issues with fixed connectivity or satellite connectivity, then we often lose the remote hands to that location. So it means an expensive site visit from an IT engineer to go to that site and find out what's happened. The cellular interface is a great way of accessing the site, whether you're VEI have comprehensive managed service tools when they're providing managed network services for customers, and they've got an extra way of using those tools to get access to a site, so that they can reboot a router or reset a server, whatever may need to happen locally. They've got that ability to bring that site back up and negate the need for a time-consuming site visit, and often costly site visit. So cellular is a great way of providing remote hands management. In our NetCloud management platform, we have all the tools there as well needed for remote access, whether that be remote desktop, SSH, HTTPS, all the standard methods for remote hands troubleshooting. So hopefully that's given you an insight as to how cellular connectivity can benefit construction, how we complement traditional services, and I'll hand back to Bill now to talk about how VEI complement our services.
Well, Chris, I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
it's been asked, how secure is the 4G, 5G network for running your network over?
I think it's important to understand that 4G and 5G networks from the public carriers it is a transport layer. It's access to the internet. Whether you were buying a broadband line at home, essentially you're buying a SIM card that gives you access to the internet. So
the security is more around how you've built your firewalls and put in your security procedures?
Yes, so there are things that the public carriers can do. They can provide you a private APN that means that the SIM cards are only for your organization, and it's more private than the public internet access. But 9 times out of 10, it's just transport to the internet, and therefore we need to provide some form of secure overlay. And this is where Cradlepoint's SD-WAN platform comes in. We've got a central concentrator. So anything targeting cloud applications or a private data center can have this secure overlay so we ensure that traffic is secure. And then we need to address local internet breakout. So where we don't want to target that data center and we want to go off to a different application such as Teams or Google Hangout, or just general internet browsing, then basically Cradlepoint has remote browser isolation. So essentially the end user is never in contact with the end website. We broker in the middle of that connection in a secure container, and we just render the content back down to the device. So that's 2 easy ways where we can secure the internet or that transport layer, Bill.
Okay, well, everything has to be looked at in an individual case anyway. So VEI are very good at advising and helping design solutions. One other question: how quickly is it to deploy? Now, I know we can get the devices from Cradlepoint within about 5 to 10 working days. So the deployment can be within 2 weeks. So if sites are needing a quick deployment to kick off greenfield sites, or like we did in the McGrath group, they had an outage with Virgin Media and they required internet access for around 2 weeks. We were able to deliver a ruggedized box with a Cradlepoint device in that they were able to get basic internet access for the 2 weeks until Virgin could fix the issue they had on the road. So it can be deployed within 10 days to 3 weeks, depending on what's required. Just to sign off on everything, I'd like to thank the CIF for having us on board. I'd like to thank Chris and Cradlepoint for their time. VEI, if anyone has any questions or would like follow-up meetings, please feel free to contact. All our details are with Sarah and the CIF. Our website would have a lot of case studies and examples of where we have deployed and where we have worked recently. Just one example, we've just completed the rollout for Chadwick's and Woody's on their Wi-Fi's in all their stores. So I'm sure you guys in construction are in and out of those stores. So I hope that's been beneficial, and thank you again. We're just on our 30 minutes, which is great. So thanks again, and thank you very much, Sarah, for hosting us.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, everybody, for attending today. We appreciate that. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks all.